You are not bad with money. You have been told that you are. By articles, by advice columns, by people who mean well. You spend too much, you save too little, you lack discipline. That is the story. But here is the problem with that story. It locates a failure inside you. And the evidence suggests the failure is not inside you. It is in the architecture around you. Let's start with something called decision fatigue. In 2011, researchers studying Israeli judges found something striking. Judges made more favorable decisions in the morning and right after breaks. As the day wore on, as they made more decisions, the rate of favorable outcomes dropped. Not because the cases got harder, because the judges got tired. Making decisions depletes the same cognitive resource regardless of what the decision is about. Choosing a sandwich, choosing a sentence, choosing whether to save money all draw from the same pool. And that pool empties. Now think about who faces the most decisions every day. Not the wealthy. The wealthy delegate decisions. They have accountants, assistants, financial advisors, meal services. Their cognitive load is managed. The person on a lower income faces more decisions, not fewer. What to buy? That is cheapest. Whether there is enough to cover the bill, which expense to delay, whether to use the overdraft. Every one of those decisions costs something. Not just money, mental energy. And the mental energy spent calculating whether you can afford something is energy not spent on planning, on work, on rest, on everything else. Subscribe if you have ever made a financial decision you regretted at the end of a long, exhausting day. Research from Princeton University psychologist Eldar Shafir and Harvard economist Senthil Mullainathan found something that challenged the conventional story entirely. Their research showed that scarcity, the experience of not having enough, captures the mind. When you are short of money, your mental bandwidth narrows. You focus intensely on the immediate problem, the thing right in front of you. This focus is not stupidity. It is an intelligent short-term response to an urgent short-term threat. But it comes at a cost. When your mind is consumed by the immediate, there is less cognitive space for the long term. Less space for planning, for saving, for the kind of patient financial thinking that mainstream advice assumes you are capable of at all times. Shafir and Mullainathan measured this effect and found that the cognitive impact of financial scarcity was equivalent to losing a full night of sleep, or a 13-point drop in IQ, not permanent, not because of who you are, because of what your situation is demanding from your brain right now. This is not an excuse, it is a mechanism. Understanding it does not remove the problem, but it does completely change where the problem lives. Now, here is a structural layer. The financial products designed for people with less money are more expensive than the financial products designed for people with more. This is not an accident. It is the market operating as designed. If you have money in a current account, basic bank transfers are free. If you run out of money and need an overdraft, the effective interest rate on that overdraft can exceed 40%. If you have savings, you can borrow at low rates against those savings. If you have no savings and need a short-term loan, you pay significantly more. Payday loans in the UK were charging interest rates of over 1,000% before regulation capped them. The less money you have, the more expensive it is to manage that money. This is sometimes called the poverty premium. It is not a bug. It is the pricing structure of a financial system designed around risk, and the person with less money represents more risk, so they pay more. The system is entirely logical and entirely cruel at the same time. Research from Fair by Design, a UK campaign organization, estimated that people in poverty pay around £500 more per year than wealthier people for the same essential goods and services. Not because they are making worse decisions, because they have access to worse options. The decisions look the same from the outside. The infrastructure behind those decisions is completely different. Now here is something nobody tells you about financial advice. Most of it was written for people who have already solved the basic problems. Invest regularly, build a buffer. Buy assets. These are good ideas. They require a foundation that does not exist for a significant portion of the population. They require surplus income. They require the cognitive bandwidth to think long term. They require access to financial products that are not available or affordable at lower income levels. Telling someone without a financial foundation to follow advice designed for someone with one is like telling someone to run when they have not yet learned to stand. Technically possible, practically useless. So what is actually true? Financial discipline is real. Habits matter. Small decisions compound. All of this is true. But none of it operates in a vacuum. It operates inside a system that prices money differently depending on how much of it you have, inside a tax structure that favors assets over income, inside a labor market that offers stability to some and precarity to others, inside a housing market that builds wealth for owners and extracts it from renters. The person who navigates that system successfully and the person who struggles in it are not necessarily different in discipline or intelligence. They are often different in where they started and in what the system offered them when they arrived. You are not bad with money. You are navigating a system that was not designed with your success in mind. Understanding that is not a reason to give up. It is the most accurate map of the terrain you are actually crossing. Drop a comment. What is the piece of financial advice that has always felt impossible for your actual situation? Like, share, subscribe. Understanding the system is the first step to navigating it.